My name's Curtis. Today I want to talk about my expenses in retirement. Maybe mini retirement, maybe barista retirement. I'm not sure yet. It all depends on what my expenses can be over the next 8 or 10 months. The last couple of years my expenses have been around $40,000, but that's when I was working. Now that I'm retired and I don't have an income, I'm trying to tighten it up a little bit. I don't really want to scrimp and save, but I do want to see if I can lower my expenses a little bit and be able to work part-time instead of going back to work full-time. Coming up, I'll detail my expenses for July, and I'll also take a look at what my expenses were for the first part of this year when I was still working. Keeping track of expenses is new for me, so this is kind of a work in progress, but it's something that I need to do if I'm going to make Barista Fire work for me. My expenses for July. In cash, $544. $500 was gift. $20 was to go see my grandson play basketball at the tournament. And I bought 7 coffees at about $2 each for $14. Most of what I spend is on a credit card or a debit card. So debit and credit cards. I have 2 credit cards and a debit card. And the total for that was $1,378. A lot of my utilities just are right off my credit card. And propane was $124. Electric was $33. Car insurance and home insurance was $246. Internet was $53. I spent $447 on groceries, $200 on the dogs. That was a little bit high this month because I bought their tick and flea treatment also. Gas for the car was $139. Home maintenance was $24, and that was gas that I bought for the lawnmowers. And then other stuff was $96. Other than cash and debit and credit cards, I also, even though I don't spend it this month, even though I don't actually pay it out this month, I have other things that are one-time payments or things that come directly out of my checking account. And that's always going to be the same because I just take that one-time payment, divide it by 12, and that's what I use as a monthly expense. So that my other monthly expenses are $1,455, and that is pellets for my pellet stove. I buy those once a year, cost me about $600, so divide by 12, that's $50. Property and school tax. Both those together, divide by 12, is $375 a month. Car payment, which comes straight out of my checking account, $1,000 a month. Phone, which I pay, it's an AT&T plan, unlimited talk and text, and then I get like 8 gigs for the internet, and that's $30 a month. Again, paid once a year. So all that together, all that was $1,455 plus the cash and the credit and debit cards for the month was $3,377 a month. Now, I also looked at the past 6 months, the first 6 months of the year. I went back through my checking account and through my credit cards, and I got all the totals for that. And real quick, January was $3,061. February was $2,904, March $3,715, April $3,208, May $3,961, June $2,740. I added all those up and averaged it out, and the average was $3,280 a month. That's about $40,000 a year, and that includes a $1,000 a month car payment. So you subtract that car payment in another year, that'll be paid off. You take out that car payment, and it's down to $28,000 a year in expenses. I'm going to try to get that down to the low 20s. And if I do that, part-time is definitely something that I feel that I can do, because the part-time job would pay for all my expenses. And then if anything else comes up, I want to do anything, I can take money out of my portfolio. My portfolio is $500,000, $500,000. So a safe withdrawal rate is 4%, which would be $20,000. So I feel like if I had to take $5,000 or $10,000 a year out of that, which is 1 or 2%, I'd be golden. I feel like it would still be growing even taking that much out. After having 2 months off, this is my 9th week of semi-retirement. And after having this time off, I really, I don't want to go back to full-time work. I'm getting spoiled, I guess. The next 5 months, I'm going to look at trying to decrease my expenses even more and see if it's feasible that I just work part-time. I really didn't intend to retire in June when I left work. It just kind of happened. So I'm not like all these other retirement channels that you see on YouTube where they had everything planned out and they knew exactly what they were doing and they got their 3 buckets set up and they know what their expenses are and they know what all their incomes are and everything. And that's not me. I had planned on retiring between 62 and 65, which for me is another 5 to 8 years from now. I had a bunch of money saved up. I just quit, and here I am trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. So the difference between going back to work full-time and Barista Fire, which is working a part-time job. Oh, and by the way, the part-time job, as of right now, and this could change in another 10 months, I did an interview with a school bus company, and I really felt like the people there seemed happy. It seemed like that would be a decent job, low stress, and give you some freedom. The other option is to go back full time and work for another probably 5 years, which would put me at 62, and then be able to retire and afford my retirement life without working at all. Those are the things I'm weighing, and I guess I got to figure it out in another year or so. There is one more option. Because going back to work full-time is not something I really want to do. Part-time sounds pretty good, but it's going to be longer. So full-time would be 5 years. Part-time is going to be more like 10 to maybe even 13 years till I'm 67 or even 70. The other option is lower my expenses so much that I don't have to go back to work. Now, the reason I kind of hesitate doing that, I don't want to scrimp and save and feel like I'm sacrificing in my life. I want to have the money to do the things I want to do. If something comes up that I want to do, I want to be able to go do it. So just trying to lower my expenses so I can live on a $500,000 portfolio, which equals about $20,000 a year, that does not seem attractive to me. Part-time work, that kind of feels like what I'm leaning toward. So 3 options. Work part-time for 10 to 13 years, most likely, maybe a little bit less than that, depending on how the stock market does. Work full-time for probably around 5 years, maybe give or take a year. Again, depending on what the stock market does and what my expenses are. And just not go back to work and just extremely lower my expenses. I don't see extremely lowering my expenses as being a viable option. I don't want to live that way. I don't want to live worried about money. I haven't in probably 20 years. I know in my 20s and early 30s, I struggled with money. I paid the bills that needed to be paid. When the electricity was going to be cut off, that's when I paid it. I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to go back to scrimping and saving. Like I said, even though I was, from the outside, it looked like I lived a frugal life, I never felt like I lived a frugal life. I always felt like I had everything I wanted. Even these last 6 years, when I went from spending my whole paycheck to saving and investing half of it, and for the life of me, I can't tell you what I was spending all that crazy money on. Well, a couple years I can. I bought some crazy stuff, but I didn't feel like I got frugal. I felt like I just got less ridiculous and frivolous in my finances, and that I just saved money and invested because I studied it a lot and I understood what I needed to do to be able to retire. Here I am trying to figure it out and throwing it up on YouTube. So if you want to watch my crazy journey and see what happens, because I know I'm curious about finding out what happens. So if you want to see what happens, come back and keep watching these videos. I'm going to keep making them and put it out there and show you what is possible. All right, well, thanks for watching, and hope to see you later.